Nearly 8 million people received financial advice in the UK last year, despite many millions more desperately needing it, although not being able to access that resource. Why? Because providing traditional advice is not financially viable for many advice firms. But in underserved markets, there is opportunity. And today, I'm talking to Lifetime Financial Management, who have built an amazing business serving the underserved. I'm joined by Andy Wealthall, Chief Operating Officer, and Bill Bottomley, Executive Director. Welcome to The Effective Advisor, a podcast from Change Squared. I'm Ben Wright. Andy, Bill, welcome and thanks for coming on the show.
Pleasure.
So, our listeners may not believe that this is a real thing, that you guys have actually managed to create a profitable business looking after those that have low levels of income and assets. Is it true?
Yes, it is true. It's absolutely true. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not something that has happened overnight. The business has been going for over 20 years, but this is the logical conclusion of everything that we've done over those 22 years. And
I've got to ask, why did you decide that this is the right market to go for? What do you think, Andy?
Well, I think from my perspective is that it's very much needed. And whilst it's not about sounding like we're here and being completely altruistic, the reality of it is that yes, of course we want to be a profitable organisation, but when you think about the numbers that you've been talking about, you've got 92 to 95% of the population that's not currently getting that service, and being able to deliver that in the right way, well, it's the right thing. It's the right thing to do.
I think what people will be really interested in is what your secret sauce is. What's the thing that makes all this work? Because I work with lots of different advice firms, and everyone talks about, what we should do is create some kind of proposition which is for lower value customers, and yet no one can seem to figure it out. So I will come on to that secret sauce shortly. But so you've been going for 20 years as a business. I take it you were a traditional advice business to start with, Bill?
Well, we have been a traditional advice business, but not in a very traditional way, I guess. We were one of the first people to start using platforms, Transact at the time, which was new to the UK. We were early adopters of Presswood and the Truth software. So yes, we were traditional advisors, but we were always being innovative and looking at ways in which we could improve the service for our clients. And that included bringing other advisors on as well. So we grew quite quickly. The traditional model really is small, looking after 200 or 300 clients tops, and right from the beginning really we were looking to grow and expand and bring other people on our journey. So a bit different in that way, I think.
So I find that a lot of financial advice businesses are started as a lifestyle business and then start to grow. Did you think you started with more of a commercial mindset?
Yeah, to a certain extent. I think partly a commercial mindset, partly because of our backgrounds in home service, and we didn't start as independent financial advisors. We started at the Prudential, and we went various places and then came back to be independent advisors. Because of that, the clients that we had, the people that we knew, and the referrals that we were getting was from a wide range of people with differing circumstances, and certainly we wouldn't be turning anybody away. So if it was a young kid that wanted to start £100 savings, or whether it was a millionaire that was looking to invest their money, we would be looking at giving them the right service all the way along. And we've never really changed from that. So we've grown and got more and more clients, and as I say, what we're doing now is sort of the natural consequence of all of those decisions that we've made over the past 20 years, including not turning anybody away. So that's, yeah.
Now that seems to be more and more difficult as regulation increases, the pressure of what's required to give compliant financial advice increases. I see a lot of firms at the moment, certainly because of Consumer Duty, I think has played a part in this, getting rid of a lot of clients and just focusing on a small number of high value clients. Many say that they would like to make sure that everyone gets advice, but they just can't figure out how to do it.
Yeah, do you know, it's interesting because there are people that's approaching us to talk about, can they actually lose clients? Can they send them somewhere and find a home for them? And you can kind of understand to some extent because of the way that their businesses are set up and how they're kind of operating, and as Bill said, quite a traditional model. Whereas I suppose the key difference for us would be it's more around how does Lifetime as its full organisation serve the person, how do they serve the client? And when you're utilising all the different skills of each department to make sure that that service is consistent, it becomes much easier. I think because of what Bill was saying, it's always about the customer, it's always about the end user. Because we've had that philosophy and we've had that way of working, when Consumer Duty came in, there was very little that we had to do.
I think you might be on your own in that vein. There are a few firms I've talked to who have said a similar, but most firms have had to make a reasonable level of change. And I think that Consumer Duty maybe was trying to create more change than has actually happened, though. I see that a lot of firms have changed their reporting, but everything else has stayed very similar to how it was previously. It's justifying what they're currently doing as opposed to innovating or doing something different.
I mean, at the heart of it, one of the key things obviously is making sure that every individual receives the level of service each and every year and consistently receives that level of service. Well, again, we come back to the point that we were in a very fortunate position that was happening. And I think that's one of the challenges that most of the kind of advising community is facing, is how do you service 200-300 people?
Yeah, and I think as well that most advisors want to give the best service possible that they can give, absolutely. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of them are thinking now, well, we can only do that for so many, and what are we going to do with the rest? Which is fine, I absolutely get that. We've been fortunate, and it hasn't been easy, but we've been fortunate to be in a position where our model is a bit being able to serve more and more and more people, and that's where we're going. And certainly over the past 3-4 years since launching the digital side, that's the thing that's become possible for us. I think if we didn't have the digital side, we would be having exactly the same conversations as most of the IFAs that are out there. There's no doubt about that.
So would you say that the change to digital is what's really given your business the power to go mass market as opposed to just high net worth?
Key. It's key.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. And there's been lots of things that have slotted into place that's enabled us to do that. Advances in technology. I mean, before the pandemic, we were pleading with Transact and Nucleus and various others to bring in DocuSign and online applications. No, we're not interested. No, that's down the line. Well, we've got a project going, and literally within a week, the pandemic hit. Suddenly, you were able to do that, and that had a massive impact on our business. And similarly, with using technology with clients. So, before the pandemic hit, we were starting to experiment with Zoom, and then the pandemic hit, and suddenly the great British public, they were all over Zoom in lots of different ways, or Teams or whatever. And so some of those barriers were broken down for us. So some of those things sort of played into what we were trying to achieve. And although obviously the pandemic wasn't a good thing, technology-wise, and certainly for what we're trying to do, it was really helpful for us.
What was the quote from Microsoft's CEO? It's 2 years of innovation in 2 weeks. Yeah. And it probably was, to be honest, wasn't it?
Yeah, and but Bill, I think the point Bill makes is really couldn't be more spot on, because people have changed. We've all adapted to technology. We all do things in a different way, and I think what is interesting that maybe for me coming from outside of the industry, when you look at that kind of traditional advice model where somebody comes to your home, they sit, they have the time with you. We seem to be in a place now with most people where actually it's the advisor that actually enjoys that part of it, when in reality the client, the individual is really happy not to have to tidy up, put the kettle on, and it's much more efficient for them, and they're getting time back. So I think people have changed generally, in a lot of ways from the pandemic, and that's just a real positive one, that's worked well for us.
I think you're dead right. People are more enabled, technology enabled, aren't they, just generally? And there's still the old kind of sayings about, oh, my clients are old, they wouldn't like this, but they've been having like Zoom birthday parties with their grandkids. The world has changed, I think, dramatically.
But it's also a recognition that it's not just about the financial advice, and it's not just about financial planning. It's also about empowering people through education. And one of the big things one of the big learns that we've had over the past 4 years is that really what people are crying out for is to understand all the smoke and mirrors that are out there in financial services. The language is a barrier, all sorts of things that all advisors understand. But when you start talking to, more and more people, what they're really interested in is making sure that they actually understand what you're talking about. And the education is really key. That's been the door really into this marketplace. It's more about the education rather than trying to flog financial advice, or even trying to persuade people to take financial advice. If you kick off with, here's some education, this is what this means, this is what that means, you've always wondered about this, or whatever, then that's the door that then people will go, actually, that's great, now I understand it, I need a bit more help, and then they look to financial planning. Yeah. So yeah, that's been a real learn.
We've often said, that if you woke up tomorrow morning and there was the availability of a financial advisor for everybody, would they use it? And we believe the short answer would be probably not, because in reality, back to Bill's point, I don't understand it. What does it mean? And there's obviously stigma around the industry, and people like myself, before I came into the industry, I wouldn't have had access to it, and you'd also have an interpretation of what that industry is. So then you think, well, okay, will I jump in if all of a sudden I wake up with a financial advisor? And not, probably not, because it's that education, it's that understanding. Where to go is massively important.
So education is a gateway drug to financial advice almost.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is, definitely.
So the market that you guys serve predominantly is employers and workforces, would that be fair?
But we do a bit of everything,
okay.
In all honesty. I mean, we've obviously got quite a large client base in terms of the number of clients that we look after. We are direct. We have a lot of clients that will approach us direct, but we do absolutely provide a wellbeing service to employers. And through that wellbeing service, it is around education, it's around accessibility, and it is around financial planning. So we really do cover all areas, really.
Mm. And the way you do that as well is key. So we've got lots of pieces of education on the website, but we also run webinars with financial advisors and coaches. We run Q&A sessions, we go into the businesses. There's all sorts of things that you do, and always all that's about is trying to help people understand the issues that are important to them. And you can imagine that the past 12 months it's been about debt, mortgages, interest rates, all that sort of stuff. And it's an easy way of saying to them, look, there's no need to be afraid, these are the issues, this is what you need to understand. And then they come back to us and say, they ask this question, that question, and it's just being accessible to them. So that relationship has been brilliant, and as we've got a lot of people that are coming through then wanting financial planning on the back of it, which is what the business model is.
So your service is generally, I understand in the employer space, that the employers would buy in service for their staff, and then they would get access via some kind of portal to your digital proposition?
Yeah, exactly that. So the employer pays for the full rounded wellbeing service, which will give them access to both online or through the app, which you can now download. That'll have all the educational content, new videos, new content. Then, we do workshops, live workshops, which are done screen to screen. We'll also do the webinars, which Bill mentioned. But one thing that's really key to mention is anything that we produce as well, we remove all the jargon, because it's scary stuff, right? Also, every employee has the ability to literally reach out to one of our coaches. And then in addition to that, it's about full financial planning. And something you mentioned earlier, which I thought is kind of interesting, because you talked about could you develop a service that is able to service the mass market. Well, one thing that I think we recognised was you can't dilute the actual service. So what we have built is the ability to bring that high level of financial planning service to the mass market, not developing a product that's a diluted version of it. Because it's,
Yeah, that was key. I mean, the driving force behind this is this idea that I mean, it's almost like leveling up. It's looking at what's fair. And what we didn't want to do is to dumb down what we've been doing for our existing clients and launching that as being you know, hey, look, this is great. If it's not great, then, you know, you can't say it is. So what we've done is we've developed financial coaches who will take people through an online fact find, create videos of their financial plan, so using Truth software, so everything that we've done in the past. And they get that, they get the plan, and then they can decide if they want to then step into the financial advice world, and that's up to the customer. So yeah, the service levels have got to be right up there, but the relationship, instead of being necessarily with one advisor, so, you know, I mean, I've had lots of clients in the past, and it's always been a close relationship. The relationship now is much more with lifetime with the company, because there's many different people that are part of the client's journey, and we're finding that at first it was a challenge, but actually if you get every single piece right, you get a much better service than you would do if you're just relying on the financial advisors to do everything. So yeah, it works well, that.
And I think with the cold hard commercial hat on, having the relationship with the firm rather than an individual really protects you against key man risk, people leaving, taking people with them, because that relationship is much more with you as an entity as opposed to an individual.
Yeah, absolutely. And many of our advisors are actually shareholders in the business as well. So all the clients are lifetimes clients. They're not advisors, clients. I mean, that's been the case for a number of years. But this does cement that, there's no doubt about it. And actually, you can give a much higher standard of service if you've got other people within the business that know that this is the level, this is where the bar is. And you're not asking advisors to do admin that they're rubbish at, because all advisors are rubbish at admin, that's for sure. And they're not missing calls and all those sorts of things that are really difficult to do. Because every advisor just wants to speak to clients, that's what they want to do, which is fair enough. But all those other things are done by other people within the business, and it gives you a much better standard of service. So.
And then you think about that from a client perspective. So rather than having one individual looking after me, I've now got an army that have got key specialist subjects. So, you know, it provides a much kind of stronger level of, I suppose, access to the right person for the right need. So that's kind of massive within itself, I think. And the other thing to mention, I think, about our advisors, which is really important, is they're all salaried. You know, it's a very kind of, it removes that kind of element of anything else other than service. You know, servicing every individual that they meet is massively important.
So you talked there about financial coaches. So a coach isn't an advisor. Just talk us through how that process works and how you kind of came to the idea of financial coaches and how it fits together.
Well, the idea, I mean, when we started using the Truth software, Presswood software, one of the most difficult things to do, and I know a lot of people, a lot of advisors out there who are using the software will recognise this, but one of the hardest things to do is to not talk about products during that process, because you see the picture, you can see what somebody needs, and you're just dying to tell them, look, this is what you need to do. So, but it spoils it, because that part of the financial journey should be discovery. It should be a client understanding their position. It should be the client's picture, and not necessarily the solution. So it makes it much easier if you get people to, and you can train people to use the software and to ask the questions and to be good listeners and to help people fill in a fact find and get their story. It's much better if they're not then wanting to give advice at the same time, and they're not able to give advice because they're not qualified financial advisors. So the coaching thing works really well, and it's like 20-year working on this and then finding out, here's a solution. Let's take away the advisors from that bit and give that to somebody else. And then the advisors have got access to that, so they can see the picture, they can watch the video, and then they can talk to the clients and make sure that what they're seeing is right and is accurate, and ask them some questions about it so that they get a really good feel for the client. But obviously they've got all that material to work on.
It really can't be underestimated. I mean,
No.
I came in from outside the industry, I experienced it myself, and that was kind of, I'd been in the industry for a little while by that point. But, you know, I've seen my sister and brother-in-law go through this, through the full kind of coaching process, receiving the video. And, you know, we're talking about a stay-at-home mum, and you're talking about an electrician, effectively. And what these guys have done and what they've experienced for the first time ever is understanding, you know, and actually engaging. You know, I mean, I know my sister, right, she's got no interest in finance whatsoever, but for the first time, she can see her future, and she can see what that plan actually means, and you know, not having any fear of a product being sold, not having any fear that, okay, are they going to ask me something that I'm going to struggle to understand? And now they've gone through that process, and yeah, they have done some things with pensions and so on and so forth, but they wouldn't have done that without going through that experience. And certainly wouldn't have done it because it generally wouldn't have been accessible.
And the accessibility bit is really important as well, because it's the other thing about what we do is that the cost is not prohibitive. So, you know, the employer pays for an awful lot of the education, etc., and then employers can pay for the financial plan that the coach puts together, but we're only talking about £149 for that plan. And that means that it's accessible for everybody that wants to go through that. And if that price is too much, it stops people from accessing that. And we didn't want that to be a barrier. So before they go to the financial advisor, they pay that amount, and then what they get from the financial advisor is a report that basically says this is what our recommendations are, and then it's up to them if they want to go through to the recommendations.
Wow. So someone can go through from education on the app or on the website, they come through and have a financial plan with a coach. They'll go through a cash flow model with them, and I've seen one of the videos actually. They are absolutely incredible. The coach talking through the financial model, which comes through as a video. And if they want to then go ahead and get recommendations on products and services, we're talking 150 quid.
Yes.
I'm a little bit shocked, as to how you've managed to create a world where that is still profitable for you to operate.
Well, you've got to look at all aspects of it. In reality, when you're servicing 10, 20, 30, 40,000 people and putting accessibility in front of them, it becomes profitable, but it becomes profitable on scale.
And that's the key, Ben. It's making sure that we're efficient in all the areas and effective in all the areas, and you can't, you know, that's why it's important that we're using coaches instead of financial advisors in various areas. It's important that we've looked at what it is that we want our financial advisors to be able to do, what they need to do, and what they don't need to do, because, you know, the financial advisors are the expensive part of the process, if you like. So you've got to make sure that they're being effective as well, in that their time is well spent. So yeah, I mean, over the past 4 years since we launched the digital, part of the challenge has been, let's make sure that each part is as efficient, as effective as possible. How are we using technology? How do we make technology as efficient as possible? You know, and that's exciting because it changes all the time. And we suddenly think, oh, we could use that there, and that saves us a bit more time there. And that's what we've been doing for, you know, 4 years now. So
sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is. We're about to dip our toe in the water on financial education for children, and that'll actually be on the app, where parents will be able to access this specific section. It'll have stories that they can talk to and read to their kids, which are actually all designed to teach good money habits. Because again, you know, it's a massively underserved area, and with the employers and the employees that we work with, you know, you can provide the parents, tens of thousands of parents, with some tools to help educate the kids, and that's coming, should be by Christmas, which is quite exciting.
I hope you're enjoying the show, and I'd just like to take a few seconds of your time to tell you about today's sponsor, which is Owen James Events. Owen James runs some of the best events I've ever been to. Last week was the Advisory Distributors Meeting of Minds event in London, which saw the CEOs of all of the large players in the UK united together. What was really heartwarming was how open and honest each of them were about their own businesses, the challenges, the weaknesses, but also the strengths, and sharing those opportunities. This is what Meeting of Minds is all about. It's about getting the right people together in the right room to have a productive conversation for the benefit of all. Whilst the big events are finished for the year, don't forget to watch out for the red folder events. These are a mixture of online, in-person or hybrid and cover a variety of topics. What sets these events apart is that Owen James makes sure that the right people are in the room to make your experience a useful one. To find out more, you can go to their website, owenjamesevents.com. This has an events listing for everything that's coming up. Okay, thank you for listening, and let's get back to the show. That's a big diversion, isn't it? From if you think about most people operating in this space, they're kind of saying, well, you know, I don't want more than 200 clients, and the minimum investment amount is 100,000, or we can't. And you guys are talking about education for you know, tomorrow's investors, but when they're still kind of little kids. Yeah. That's really forward thinking.
You know, I mean, again, you've only got to look at ourselves, haven't you, and some of the kind of our behaviours around money, and where did those habits actually form? It's from our parents, and it's from everything we're exposed to. So I think, you know, as much as anything else, yes, it is thinking about the investors of tomorrow and you know, helping people get into a great place. But again, it comes back to, if you're in a position where you can actually help and make a difference, then you should.
The population of the UK is just so badly served by not necessarily financial advisors, because that model is that model, and it's perfect, it's great, and there's some brilliant financial advisors out there who are looking after people in a way in which we can't look after them. But once you start to say, okay, well that's their vision and that's great, but this is our vision, and our vision is about mass market, it is about bringing good education and money habits to the UK. And actually we really badly serve the UK. Because even those models that are out there, you know, the robo sort of stuff, it's not very good. And because it's not very good, it serves some people, but really it doesn't. It's not doing a good job. And what financial advisors in the UK have done well is with their clients, they've done a really good job. And we want to bring that to more and more people, because it's the right thing to do. And actually, if you can make it profitable, through technology, through efficiencies, then, you know, why wouldn't you? And why wouldn't you think as big as you possibly can? Because, you know, we don't want to serve a couple of thousand people. We want to serve millions of people.
Because the robo-advice piece, it was big for a while, and it was talked about everywhere, wasn't it? And then the cost of acquisition was far too high for them to become profitable. Yeah. And I think, as you said, service... It seemed like they were trying to recreate the traditional advice journey using a machine, which didn't really work. And my understanding is that most people fell out at the decision stage. Yeah. So they go all the way through, and then when it said, right, now do you want to go ahead, that's when they drop off, because they want to talk to a person.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
And that will always be the case. You know, it's for me, the biggest learn that I would say is that there has to be a significant presence of a human in that loop. You just got to look at yourself and ask yourself that question: would I trust a robot with what is effectively going to be, you know, the full later years of my life? No, I absolutely will not. I want to be looking at somebody, I want to talk to somebody, and I want to understand as much of it as I possibly can. You know, let's be honest, you know, would I, coming from external from the industry, understand everything? No, probably not. But that person makes the difference, you know.
Yeah. So where did you come from then, Andy? What's your background?
So I've probably spent about 20 odd years in the travel industry. Okay. Working for TUI, Thomas Cook, First Choice. So yeah, very very travel in terms of my background.
And what made you switch into financial advice then? Because that is quite a difference.
You won't believe it if we tell you, Ben. You won't believe it.
So I just left Thomas Cook. Thomas Cook, obviously we all know what happened there, and I was off down to London to meet a travel company, to secure a position. And I get on this train in Wakefield, and I booked my seat and I sit down and sat next to this chap, and I looked across, and it got this massive pad of paper which was GDPR rules, regulations, and this, that and the other. And I looked across and I said, rather you than me, to be perfectly honest. And we started to chat, and we chatted all the way down, and you know, talked about lots of different things. So I go, have my interview, all worked out really well, gets back on the train, and this same guy gets back on the train. And I'm starting to get a bit panicky at this point. I'm thinking, we've got a stalker here, you know, there's something not quite right. Anyway, cut a long story short, it was Ian Dickinson, CEO of Lifetime.
Wow.
And they were telling me about all the exciting things that they were doing, and then I came in to meet Bill and Ian, and well, the rest is history, really.
Sounds serendipitous, that.
It is.
So you talked earlier on, Andy, there about receiving your pension statement, which is 30 pages long and loads of stuff in there. And to a certain extent, I think it's the same for a lot of financial advice reports. Absolutely. You get the report and it's you're up, you know, whereabouts am I going here? And I think that the information I get is that most people don't read them. They're very, very much not read, to the point where there are some innovative solutions out there about trying to prevent things differently, but they haven't really taken off. What do you guys do in that space?
So it comes back to the element of the coach for me. It's that element of, right, okay, so my pension statement's arrived. As a standalone document, it means nothing whatsoever. All I think, you know, anybody ever really, really wants to know is, what does it mean for me? What does this look like for me? And if you can translate that into that financial picture, so I know what's going to happen, you know, all things being equal, when I get to 55, 60, 65, then it doesn't matter what it says on that statement, because it matters what does that look like in my life and my picture. And I'm not bothered if I don't understand the words in the statement. It makes no difference anymore, because whatever changes, I know I'm going to sit down with a coach, they're going to produce that video for me, and each and every year I'll know exactly where I'm going and what I'm doing, and if I've changed anything, what does that mean? Bringing all of that life picture together makes that irrelevant. And that's the important part.
But what we are doing, because we do recognise what you've said, Ben, what we are doing as well is that on our annual reviews, we send the annual review report to our clients, but we're also sending them a video, and the video is using an avatar and using AI, and with that video, the avatar goes through the report for them. The salient points, this is what you had last year, this is what it's worth now, here are some things that we think you might want to be thinking about, before they then talk to a human being at the end of it, one of our review advisors. But what that does is it gives people the opportunity, if they don't want to read it, because so many people, I mean, how many of us now read newspaper columns and stuff? I mean, I read it on a Sunday, and each Monday I come in with Andy and say, have a look at this is interesting. But most of us, and he's really happy about, he really looks forward to Monday morning. But most of us are looking on videos on our phones, you know, et cetera, It's there if people want it. It's a different way for them to engage in it, and to make it as easy as possible, not clunky, but it's really a revelation. It's brilliant stuff.
Yeah, we all want to communicate in different ways, and I'll be brutally honest, I'll be like that people that you're talking, I wouldn't read it. Absolutely not. I either want somebody to sit and tell me that, but actually now, you know, the video lands, a couple of minutes long, key points, I'm updated, I know where I'm at, great, move on.
That sounds like a great idea, and I think AI has maybe enabled that to become a reality, right? So otherwise you'd be sat in front of a camera as we are now, doing the talks, but actually you can just plug it into the AI program, and it generates a chatbot kind of person avatar saying, hello, here's what you've got, here's where you are.
They're great quality. It's not like Bill and Ben now. It's really, to excuse the expression, but it's really top class stuff, and it's just getting better all the time. And that's, you know, that's using technology and to be a bit more imaginative about how we can best serve clients using technology. That's exciting.
So you think about that knock-on effect, don't you? So I've got my video, I've watched my video, then actually does that have an impact on the amount of questions and time I've got for the planner? Well, of course it does. You know, so then the person building the video actually is now the people that's behind the camera. You know, these are the guys that build it and they put all that content in. Yeah, technology is just, you know, it's advancing at such a pace, And I think, and I will say it again, because I'm in a privileged position to be able to do so, coming from outside the industry. You know, this is an industry for me that, you know, it's drastically being left behind. You know, so you know, to integrate some of those things in, there's masses of opportunity.
Mm.
So what do you think's stopping other firms in taking the leap?
Well, I mean, there's a few things. First of all, we've put a lot of money into this. You know, we're a long-established company, and we haven't gone out and borrowed money. We've used our own money to invest in this, and it's cost an awful lot. But that's because we believe in it, and we believe in the future of the business. So that's the one thing that stops people, because it isn't cheap. You've got to invest in the technology and in the people. But I think as well, it doesn't really fit with most people's business model, which is why they're more likely to look to house clients somewhere else, because they can see, well, you know, I've got X amount of hours in the day, and if I'm going to give this level of service, how many clients can I actually look after? And that gets reduced down to 200, 150, whatever it is. So I think that instead, it's almost easier in some ways to say, well, look, that 100 that we had before, let's move them somewhere else, because we know we can look after these people and be very profitable. And that's the traditional model. So it doesn't surprise me at all.
So do you think that you're going to be using your educational stuff that you're doing now to kind of help that school program potentially turn into a university program and get people through that way? Because, I mean, when I joined financial advice, it was through a bank. Yeah. That's where everyone came through a bank. That was the way that you became a financial advisor. It was a bank or a life insurance office. And then once you got decent at it, you went out into the wider world. But that seems to have gone now. So where's tomorrow going to come from?
It is going to come from places like the universities that we have that relationship with. We're very shortly we're actually going to be providing our wellbeing service to a university up in the north of the country. And again, so it will become from building relationships with guys like that, but also because of everything that we've kind of built internally, you know, through our coaches. I see a future where some of our coaches will come knocking on the door and saying, do you know what, actually, I'd like to do that. I'd like to move into that space. So again, you can produce a pipeline of future financial advisors through there.
And also it's not the same model. And, you know, what the way that our financial advisors will work now and in the future is not the way in which most financial advisors work now. So there will be stuff that will go through the coach, and then people will be guided to go somewhere that's that are self-service. So, there will be advisors that specialise in one or two areas that we can send people to, and what we're learning is, well, what does that look like? And you know, the exciting thing is that we're modelling that for ourselves to make sure that people get good compliant advice, but they get the right advice at the right time and by the right person.
So does that coach kind of almost act like a GP, in that they do the first point of call, do the overall piece of work, and then the client says, you know what, I'm happy with that, and it's like, right, what you need is over here, or what you need is down there somewhere, or where's that? Is that like a triage service, or?
I think triage would possibly be underselling it, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Well, because in reality, the coach, you know, will provide you with that full plan, which again, I'm sure everybody knows, and it's that full financial plan in that form of the video. And a lot of people now will then be, well, I'm empowered, I can go and do things myself. You know, there's nothing I need at this moment in time, I'm in great shape. Or do you know what, yeah, I do need some help from here, or here. So it's, you know, that coach actually, for quite a lot of people, that will be the solution to their current need.
If I came back in my next life, I'd come back as a coach, because the coaching bit is the bit that most of us have liked, where you are getting the client's story, you're finding out what the concerns are, you are asking them questions, sitting back, listening, prompting, getting all of that from them, and putting together a plan that says, look, guys, actually go and retire. You know, you don't need to keep saving, or actually you need to do some things here and here. And that's always been the bit that's been the best bit. The crappy bit, to be honest, is filling in paperwork and giving advice. But, you know, that's a personal opinion.
I find it fascinating because I do a lot of work with firms around productivity, increasing productivity, efficiency, effectiveness of operations. And generally, the people that lead the business think it's a great idea. And then when it cascades down, the biggest amount of resistance is always the financial advisors. Yeah. And they're like, well, you know, I could pass that off, but, you know, I'm not sure it'd be done right. And that's really, only I can do that part of the business, part of the process. And actually, if you think about it, such a small part is advisor only. The overall process is huge, isn't it? And that engagement level is huge.
You have to think about why they're asking that question as well, though. You know, and, you know, I think people generally are, the first thought in anybody's mind, as I said about, you know, well, what does it mean about me? What does this mean to me? So I think, you know, having gone through different industries where there's been a mass evolution and there's been huge change, all the time you're fighting that constant battle of, well, what's going to happen to me? What's the impact? And how much of that is positioned from a position of fear? That, well, what is there going to be for me to do? Where do I fit into this? So it's really important that I think, you know, people have got to understand that, you know, they are a massive part of the journey, but it's the part that they are the best at, and making people feel comfortable that it's okay just to be great at that part and be part of a team. And again, I don't think really, I mean, my understanding and my kind of, I suppose, outside looking in is that I don't think financial advising has been a team sport, for want of a better word. So, you know, to become part of a team brings lots of benefits with it, but there'll be a level of anxiety that I think, you know, you've got to help people through.
Maybe the same as advisors used to do a lot of fund picking. That was a big thing, wasn't it? Or my portfolio is the best portfolio, and moving away from that idea of that's where the value add is, to actually the value add is how do I help you achieve your goal? That takes a bit of a mindset move. And do you think this is the same type of thing in that they don't have to be the whole thing, they're just one part of the overall kind of jigsaw?
I absolutely do. I mean, I go back to my old industry, and you think about, well, when the internet came in, it was the death of travel agents, right? Absolutely not. It was a new part in the journey. So all of a sudden I may do some research online, so when I come in I'm in a better place, and actually it shortened the conversation time that you were having because they've already done the research. So it's just, it's change, it's evolution, and it's just being comfortable with it.
I remember teletext. I said to my daughter the other day, we used to go on teletext for holidays, and she's like, what? What's teletext? But that was your research, right? You went through your page, you had to wait like 30 pages till it came back to the one you wanted, and then brought the number down and phoned up.
You asked the point about why people are not embracing technology and AI and so on and so forth. It's change. And I think for a lot of it, it's moving at such a pace, it's quite frightening. And, you know, you'll have your early adopters, which clearly we fall into the early adopter stage, but, you know, a lot won't, and it'll take a long time till it's tried and tested.
I mean, you talked about using AI in your process now with the avatars and things along those lines. There is I suppose people are split on their views on AI. Will it kind of encroach into what we do at the moment? Or actually, is it just like a calculator? It makes maths a whole lot easier. Where do you sit on that kind of scale?
Personally, I think what you've just said is absolutely probably the best analogy that I've heard, because that's the reality of it. AI won't replace. AI will make things easier. It will make things, you know, just stronger, and it will run alongside. It won't replace. Certainly not in this field and in this industry, because again, it comes back to that human in the loop. But utilising it to be able to offer that education and you know, in a mass way. You know, Bill sent me something earlier actually, which, you know, I was talking to one of the other advisors about yesterday. You know, a piece of software that can actually analyse your meeting that you've just held and write your reason why. Well, why wouldn't you do that? You know, yes, it might be a bit clunky initially because we're in the early phases of it, but it's just going to get better and better.
It plays into the efficiencies. There's no doubt about that. The more efficient and effective we can be, the better. And if AI helps us to get that message out, but also to be more effective and efficient as a business, then, you know, for me it's a big tick in the box, and we look forward to what it can bring and how we can use it. Absolutely, 100%. We're always going to be hybrid. We're always going to be with human beings. The coaches are the most important part of that. There's no doubt about that. And, you know, that's never going to change. But all the other bits and pieces, the admin-y sort of stuff that, you know, why is it taking us so long to do this? Can AI help us with that? How can we find a technology solution that's going to help us with that? We'll look for that all the time. We've got to.
You know, I know we went out and we were the coaches constantly in a phase of recruitment because we're consistently growing, and applicants weren't coming through. So we ran the job description through a piece of tech, and we had more applicants the next time we put it out there than ever before. So it is, it's embrace it, but use it in the right places. That's we welcome it.
That's fascinating. I use it every day. In one way or another, I tend to use some things that make my life easier every day, because I just think, why wouldn't I? If it's here, why wouldn't I use it? Me again, and I've got one favour to ask. When I look at the analytics for this show, most people that listen and watch aren't subscribed. It makes a huge difference to the show if you hit that subscribe button. The more subscribers we have, the higher calibre of guests we can have and the better production to make the experience all the better for you. So please, if you do just one thing, hit that subscribe button. It helps the show more than you can imagine and ensures all the new content is pushed directly to you on your device. Okay, let's get back to the show. I'm sure if I don't do this, people are going to ask questions afterwards and I'll get bombarded with comments. Could you just walk us through the process that a client of yours would go through from inception, maybe to like the first annual review? So what would that client experience and in what format?
So very much depends on how they come to us. So some will come through the employers as employees of the employers that we service. Others will come direct. So the employer could be paying for the service, or the individual could be subscribing to receive a similar kind of service. So once they come through, they'll access all of the educational content, all the tools, resources, everything that's available, and they can reach out to a coach at any point. Then they would start to fill in their online fact find. Once the online fact find is started to be completed, a coach then is assigned, and the coach then will reach out to build a relationship and to kind of really start that conversation. At that stage, it's very much to understand, do you need any help in kind of completing this? Because again, it comes back to the pension statements and people haven't got a clue. So once that's kind of all done and dusted and all the information's all gathered on the online fact find, then a coach will have a one-on-one conversation to understand what's important, what's keeping you up at night, what are the things that really are important that you want to understand. They then go away, they'll build the financial plan utilising the software, and they will deliver that in the form of a video. The video is then watched by husband, partner, together, whoever it might be.
Uploaded onto a portal which is secure. All that is secure.
Yep, all access through the app as well, so your video's uploaded to your app. And then once they've watched that, they'll have another conversation with the coach to make sure that everything's understood. Are you in a good place? Determine if there's any more help or support that's needed. And as I said earlier, some people will then say, no, I'm in great shape, off I go. And they're fully empowered to do so. Others will say, I need some help on this, this and this. And if that's the case, then they pay £149 to sit with, spend time with one of our financial advisors, fully regulated advisors, and they'll produce the report and recommendations for them. If they decide to go ahead with that, then obviously they become a client of Lifetimes, and then they receive our service ongoing. So what's on service ongoing look like? It doesn't just start at annual review. We have 4 webinars per year for our clients in addition to everything else that we do. We also we keep in contact with monthly newsletters, updates, vlogs and articles. And then, of course, it comes down to that time for review. So a member of our review team will reach out and they will book in a time and an appointment to have a conversation. Beforehand, we build a full pack, which will highlight all the investments, performance, anything to worry about. We build a video, which will give the highlights from that, and that's sent to the client prior to the meeting. And then we have a screen-to-screen meeting, update, and if there's any obviously work to be done, then that work will be done and passed on to one of our financial advisors who would kind of do that. And then it all starts all over again.
It all starts again. So the client fills in their own fact find, and you don't get any pushback on that from customers.
It's what we offer.
So if they want to engage with you, that's how you engage. Okay.
I mean, you know, that was one of the massive challenges right at the beginning, and it's changed a couple of times. But to create an online fact find that was A, simple enough that didn't put people off, but B, gave you enough information so that you could create a financial plan, that's a challenge. The jargon, that's a challenge. But we've got to a stage now where the fact find that we've got, we're happy with for the moment. I'm sure it will change.
I'm sure.
In the future, there will be all sorts that we'll be able to do that will illustrate, you know, what a pension is, what your pension statement might look. There's all sorts of things you can do. But that whole process, the online fact find is the only way that people can now access our services.
But we do make things easier as well. I mean, we've just launched the app, and on the app, you can literally just take a picture of the document. So if you don't understand it, or you're just not sure, picture, upload, done. Sometimes some of the fact finds can be missing a little bit of information, and that's where that will fill that gap, just giving people the ease of access to just send us the information and we can translate it for them.
You can work from there. Sounds great. Where do I sign?
Go to the website.
But on a serious note, if people, other advice firms have made the decision that they can't service their clients, you are open for referrals into you guys from other places?
Yeah, and absolutely we are. I think that it's really important for other advisors to know that if they do that, which is great, what their clients would get would not be what they're giving their clients. And you know, that's just because we can't do that. This is what we do, this is how it works, and we're very happy to take whoever comes through the door. You know, whether they've just started work or whether they're just finishing work or and everywhere in between. But yeah, this is what we do, and I think that's really important, and we're proud of it, and I think we do a really good job, but we don't do other stuff. Yeah. This is it.
So as our regular watchers and listeners will know, we finish every episode with a quick fire question round where we'll find out a bit more about the people we've been speaking to. And today I have two guests, so we get double the fun. So I'm going to start with you, Andy, with question number one. What's your favourite thing to do at the weekend?
Play golf with my son. I'm rubbish. I am absolutely shocking. Bill will attest to it. But my lad is doing so well at it. So I just love watching him. Super proud.
Trying to keep up.
I don't even try to keep up anymore. Those days are gone. He just, you know, I mean, he's 12 and he hits it further than I do, and well, it goes in the right direction, whereas mine doesn't. So yeah, that's my favourite thing at the weekend.
Fair enough. What about yourself, Bill?
I like walking with my wife, Claire, and the dogs, and hiding from the grandkids.
Sounds sensible.
That's my favourite thing to do at a weekend.
So let's go a bit deeper then. What motivates you, Andy?
What motivates me more than anything ever now is actually being in a fortunate position to be able to make a difference. Don't get me wrong, selling holidays was great. You know, working in that industry was great. But what gets me out of bed every morning is being able to make a difference. That's where my motivation comes from, and I think I tell Bill on a regular basis.
What about yourself, Bill?
Yeah, mine's sort of changed a little bit, I think, because my position has changed. So from sort of hands-on day-to-day running of the business, now my motivation is to look where I can add value, because other people are doing that, which is great, and it's given me a lot of freedom. But it also, the challenge is, how do you help to take the thing that you love further and further? And that's my motivation, definitely.
What's something you've always wanted to do but haven't yet had the chance to?
Crikey. I mean, that's a tough one for me, because I am the worst person in the world, for example, to buy a Christmas present for, because if I see something I want, I go and get it, right? And I've done the same thing. So I learned how to become a qualified scuba diver, golfing, skiing. I go and do it. Is there something that I haven't done yet? No,
What a nice position to be in.
You know, I think, you know, I genuinely believe life is for living.
And do you have that one thing, Bill?
I don't really, I guess. I think my ambition is more to do with seeing where this can go. You know, I'm looking forward to seeing this becoming a national debate where people on a national level are talking about what we're doing and getting involved in that conversation, because it feels to me like that what we're starting is the beginning of a conversation, because we let people down in this country, and our business lets people down, and not necessarily independent financial advisors, but the people, the powers that be that are trying to help people understand their finances are rubbish at it. And the conversation has got to be more about how you empower people. And that conversation has got to start, and for me, that conversation, well, I want us to spark that conversation. I think we will.
Well, hopefully the conversation will start or be continued furthered by by our talk today. Fingers crossed. So staying with you, Bill, what's something you've changed your mind about in the last year?
Well, I'll tell you something that's changed my mind. It's not the last year, but myself and Andy, when Andy joined, and it was a real learning thing for me. I've always been very a passionate person. I'm half Irish, and if I'm not careful, the red mist comes down, and you know, I make my point in all sorts of ways. I'm great at swearing, but Andy came in, and I was convinced that everything we did should be about the financial planning. And that was because I've seen the effects it has on people's lives, and I was absolutely wedded to that. And Andy came in and said, do you know what, we ought to be looking at financial education, and started going down that route, which I didn't want him to do. And I invited him to my house. So I live in a little village just down the road from here. I invited Andy, and we went for a walk, and I think I spent an hour shouting at him. And at the end of it, I mean, he took it all, and he's still with us, which is great. But he was right, and I think that it was a massive lesson for me. But it's one of those things that I think as I've got older, I've started to understand that I need to learn more from other people, and I love it. You know, I can see the rest of my life. I love reading, I love listening to stuff, but learning from Andy that day was a big change in me. Yeah, very much so.
Thanks, Bill.
Catalyst for change. What's something you've changed your mind about, Andy?
Bill. Oh, God. I do remember that day really well. I texted my wife and said, if I don't come home, send the police to look for me here. But anyway, what have I changed my mind about? Goodness. I've changed my mind about a lot of people, actually. And where I actually thought they would add the most value, you've actually put them into a different niche, and you've seen what they can really, really do. So I think there's a couple of people certainly within this business. I mean, one great example would be Tom. You know, we had him in one role and we had him in one position, and he was doing a good job. And I saw him in that. But then we've moved him to do something else, and now all of a sudden he's just unbelievable. But I could say that about a lot of people within the business. I've changed my mind about people and where I see them more than anything else, I think, over the last year.
What's the greatest life lesson that you learned?
My greatest life lesson is, and it's corny and it's as cheesy as hell, but the most precious commodity is time. And without a doubt, you know, I've lost time with my family because of jobs that I've chose to do. Time. You know, never ever waste time.
Bill?
Well, I've got two. One is that my wife's always right. There's no point in arguing with her. And the second one is to sleep on it before you make a decision. Yeah, that's served us well. I think that, you know, the initial whatever, park it, sleep on it, come back. It's thinking fast and slow, and yeah, and that's been a big lesson for me, because the Irish part of me is pushing all the time, and I'm having to knock it back.
Last question. What advice would you give to your 10-year-old self?
Let you go first, Phil.
Well, mine would definitely be enjoy the journey, because my journey's been all over the place. So yeah, just enjoy the journey, because it turns out great. So just enjoy it.
Andy?
Probably say yes. And what I suppose what I mean by that is that, you know, we all start off in life, I think, with this certain stages. Well, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what life's going to look like. And, you know, no, I shouldn't do that. I can't do this. But actually, some of the best things that have ever happened in my life is when I've actually said yes to things that I never thought I would.
Thank God.
Being here, you know, so say yes a bit more often.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, both of you. It's some sage advice there at the end, and I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you about your business. I think you are doing what other people aren't, and it's clearly working very well for you. And I hope that it does start that conversation. It furthers that conversation on that it's not about the way that it always has been, it's about the way that it should be. Yeah. And I think you guys are pioneering in that space. So thank you both ever so much for your time. If you do want to find out more about Lifetime, you can visit their website. If you search Lifetime Barnsley, you will find them, or Lifetime Financial Management. But yeah, thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.